Hello everyone, and hello to my students in ethics and critical thinking classes. Once again, this is your professor, Dr. Ilag, and I welcome you to this philosophy lecture series. We are now in lesson 2 with the topic the undefinability and definability of philosophy under a wider heading the what and the why of philosophy. Alright. As I promised, Philo and Sophie will always be with us in our journey, and they will help us unfold many fascinating realities and ideas in philosophy. So, once again, I would like you to welcome them, and Philo is greeting you once again. Hi everyone, I am Philo. I am passionate and I represent love. Likewise, Sophie would like to tell you hello there. I am Sophie, I am wise, and I represent wisdom. So, come on, let us join them once again. From the previous lesson, or lesson 1, we became familiar with the use of critical thinking when we were discussing about meaning and definition. So here, Philo and Sophie are practicing them. Now, Plato asks, he has a question to Sophie. He says, Sophie, how do we determine whether a statement is already a definition or not yet a definition? And then notice that Sophie here has a very clever answer to that question. Philo, just remember that we can only define anything if we can make that thing definite. Great. So, to begin our discussion today, Philo and Sophie prepared the objectives of our lesson for today. So, let me read them for you. In this lesson, we are going to tackle some salient aspects of philosophy. Specifically, we will help you to demonstrate the concept of undefinability of philosophy using an example. Explain comprehensively and extensively the given definitions of philosophy. Recognize the limitation of the capacity of the human mind to think. Highlight the deepened understanding of philosophy or wisdom in relation to philosophy, and reflect on some insights that we will gain from this lesson. From the previous lesson, we learned that philosophy is both definable and undefinable. So the foregoing subtopics here are the given supposed definitions of philosophy. And your role as my student is to help me determine whether these suggested definitions are actually definitions of philosophy or not yet definitions of philosophy. So let's have this first one, the so-called common usage, and I believe this is a very interesting discussion. So let me read to you the statement. Philosophy refers to the sum total of thinking about life, which shapes one's attitude and affects one's action. In short, what you think, what you live. I repeat, what you think, what you live. So this single sentence capsulizes the long statement that we have just read. Okay? So what I would like you to do is to pause for a while. I'll give you some seconds, and I would like you to apply your critical thinking, and please analyze critically if that statement can stand as already a definition of philosophy or not yet a definition of philosophy. All right. So I think you're able to analyze it critically. So now you are now you are ready. Sorry. Now you are ready to give your judgment. Okay. So, but before we proceed, no, before you tell me your judgment, I would like you to look at the illustration here or picture here that I included in this discussion. So you can observe different individuals here, and all of them have freedom to do anything they would like to do. Meaning, they are free, no, to live the kind of life that they want according to their own thinking and believing. Okay. So, what now is your judgment? Do you think this is already a definition of philosophy? Well, if you will ask me, my judgment is that that statement is not yet a definition of philosophy, because that statement is constructed in a way that is very subjective. Okay? Because uh, it it demonstrates that any individual is free to live his or her life according to his own thinking. And for me, that is a very subjective claim. Okay? So, I think this statement is not yet defining a philosophy. This is not definite because this is a product of individuals' way of thinking. In short, the way it is understood is broad, no? And for that reason, it is not yet a definition. Okay, on the previous slide, by the way, let me explain more so that you can have a better understanding of this discussion. So, what you think, what you live. I think that statement can be best explained when, for example, you are asked to write an essay with the title My Philosophy in Life. Okay? So, let me assume that in your senior high, maybe one of your teachers there ask you to write an essay with the title My Philosophy in Life. So, you can imagine and we can assume that we know already the content of that essay. Well, the content of that essay, of course, is about your own belief system, your own principle in life, and basically that is according to you, meaning that is subjective. No? What you have written there may not necessarily be applied to the student next to you because he or she has his or her own philosophy in life. In short, all people in the world or all students in all schools have different philosophy in life. Okay? And for that we can say that is subjective in nature. All right? I think we can still express, or it can, this statement can be best expressed by using as an example the so-called motto. So I know you're familiar with a motto. It is a short sentence or phrase chosen as encapsulating the beliefs or ideals guiding an individual, family, or institution. So we can have individual motto, we can have family motto, or we can have institutional motto. I remember during our high school days, um, I remember that my girl classmates had the so-called slam book. So it contains a lot of information about them. No, their favorite color, no, their friend or friends, their hobbies. No, it can even include their ambitions and so on. But I cannot remember that it also contains the so-called motto. So they indicate their personal motto. All right? Now, with regard to motto, I have here an example. And this I think is the most classic example that we can remember whenever we talk about motto. And this is time is gold. Right? Now, it sounds great. I think that motto tells us that we have to value time. Time is really valuable. No? To say that it's like a gold, then time must be so valuable for us. Okay. Um, Speaking of countries that value time so much, I cannot help but remember the Western countries, no, especially the U.S. No? Especially because they are, or people there are being paid according to the hour, so it follows that they are so much concerned about time. So they hate coming late. All right. And there are countries, usually the Eastern countries, which has a different concept of time. I think Philippines is one of the most noted countries with regard to the notion of time. Unfortunately, we have that negative, um, you know, we are known for that negative concept of time. We call that Filipino time. No? No? Demonstrated as always being late. Okay? Well, I think that is in our culture. What I also remember about the West, I remember, I think there was once a study conducted about that, and that study found out that the reason why the West are so much valuing time because their concept of time is linear, no? So linear, straight line, horizontal line. I think for that you can easily see the tenses, no? The past, the present, and the future. So when it is past already, you cannot anymore go back. So maybe that reminds them that time really is so important. So they cannot afford to waste it. However, I think that same study is also revealing that the way the Eastern countries, no, are conceptualizing time is through the concept of spiral. See, so you can imagine spiral figure. Okay, it means to say that it can accommodate the concept that if time passes, there is a possibility that it will come again. And I suppose, and I suspect, that maybe that is the way Filipinos think. Our thinking about time is not linear, it is spiral. So maybe that's why in our culture negotiation is possible. Hmm? We believe that time will come again. It can be repeated. Well, that is only my opinion. All right. Now, going back to the concept of time is gold, maybe you can adapt that uh, motto. And I remember my classmates during that time, because we the boys were so naughty that sometimes uh, we steal those lamb books, and because we want to discover what those girls are, you know or what are the secrets of those girls. And I can remember that most of them have written or have indicated time is gold as their motto, surprisingly. Well, but as I think of it right now, although they have the same motto, time is gold, I think they have different interpretation. No? Maybe one interpretation of time is gold does not apply to the other classmate of mine having the same motto. Because I believe that still a motto is a subjective claim. Okay? So different people may have different ways of living their life depending on their own principle and belief system. Well, I have prepared here somewhat a joke. No? I include Philo and Sophie here. No? And Philo says, well, if you're saying that for you time is gold, maybe for me is time is copper. Does it sound interesting? So you may now have your interpretation. If according to Philo, time for him is copper, then what must be his interpretation of time? And if for Sophie, time is silver, so what do you think is her interpretation? So maybe for students like you, no, the one that is following the principle of time is gold is, I mean, you will come to my class, no, on time. But if your concept of time is silver, maybe you entertain that you can always come late. And surprisingly, interestingly, if your concept of time is copper, maybe you can entertain that to be absent always in the class, no, is acceptable, no, not just being late but be absent. So different people may have different concept of time, no, because that is the way you want to live your life. So again, that statement summarized by the sentence, what you think, what you live, is a very subjective claim. And as my judgment, it cannot be considered a definition of philosophy. All right? So I hope that explanation is already clear to everybody. Okay, so let us proceed to the next topic. This one is more formal. Number 2 talks about etymological definition of philosophy. So that is what we commonly hear about philosophy. Its etymological aspect of defining. So, what actually constitutes the word philosophy is the combination of two origins, philos and sophia. Alright? So here is philos and here is sophia. Now, philos means love. That is why philo, our friend, represent love. Alright? Okay? So I hope you can see the connection. But we are confused because here the translation of philos is not only love, but it is also friend. By the way, does it confuse you? Well, it is not supposed to confuse you because I believe that these two terminologies are cousins. They are connected to each other. Um, in the sense that when you say friend, it follows that you love your friend, right? So there is a love aspect in a friendship relationship. Although that concept of love in friendship does not involve eros or sexual activity. Remember that there are many kinds of love, no? And we can see it here. Love, eros, storge, philia, agape. No? So philia is the kind of love that is connected to philosophy, no? To the one that we are talking about here. But agape, if you're now familiar with this word, although this is a Greek one, I think that is used in spirituality, especially when you talk about Jesus Christ, especially when you consider the kind of love that He has exemplified, no? A kind of love, the so-called highest form of love, a kind of love that is capable of offering oneself for the purpose for the sake of his friends, and that is the kind of love that was manifested by Jesus Christ when he was still on earth, living on this earth. Okay, so there is no problem between love and friend, but strictly speaking, with regard to philosophy, we are not employing the word friend here, but we strictly use the word love. All right? Now, Sophia means wisdom, precisely. Okay? But there is another word here, knowledge. Again, I think you should not get confused about the presence of these two words here. Anyway, we are going to distinguish. It is needed that at this point we distinguish the difference between wisdom and knowledge, so that later on in our following discussions you will not ask anymore, because in this particular lesson you already encountered it, and you come to understand um, the difference. Okay, so I think my first question would be, which do you think is easier to acquire between wisdom and knowledge? Okay, think about it. Now, if you're thinking that knowledge is the one which is easier to acquire, well, that is what is also in my mind. Okay? Because knowledge is easily gotten. Why not? For example, you go to the library, you stay there, you read all the books there. You make the library your house, because you're so much concerned with accumulating many information. And no doubt, no, that at the end of your mission, no, finally you will become a knowledgeable person, an intelligent person, no doubt, but not necessarily as a wise person. So there is a distinction or difference between wisdom and knowledge. But what really is wisdom? Because that is our main concern in this lesson. Because this is part of the definition of philosophy. What really is wisdom? I mean, where can you encounter it? If there is any kind of book wherein you can find any example or discussion or manifestation of wisdom, what do you think is that kind of book? I have something in my mind. The Bible. Alright? I think the Bible. or maybe for some of my Muslim students here, you will also say that the Quran, no, your Quran, uh, is also a kind of book wherein we can find wisdom. I remember one of my students in one of my classes before. No, we already discussed about it, and he showed me that the concept of wisdom is also found in Quran. All right. Now, going to the Bible, which do you think, or is there any event in the Bible wherein you can say there is the concept of wisdom, and that wisdom is used? Well, right now, what I have in my mind is an event. No? It's an event. It's an event that happened in the life of Jesus Christ when he was young, when he was a little boy. Okay, and I think that happened during the time when Mary and Joseph, the parents of Jesus, were attending a special occasion in Jewish culture. And then, to cut the long story short, the problem was discovered when the husband and the wife, Mary and Joseph, were already home, because they were when they were going back, they were expecting that this little Jesus is with the other, no, and vice versa. So when they got home, they discovered that Jesus Christ was missing. And so when they go back, I think, to the synagogue, they discovered that Jesus Christ was there, no? And he was found to be sitting down and discussing among the elders in that synagogue, no? And according to the Bible, Jesus Christ, or that little Jesus, was full of wisdom. Okay? So that's what I can remember. Now, going back again to that word wisdom, people say that wisdom is gotten from experience. No? So that is how we commonly understand wisdom. So it means to say that if a person is older, then he or she is expected to have more wisdom than the young ones. That is why in the Filipino culture, there is a saying, no? Or in Tagalog, meron tayong kasabihan, papunta ka pa lang, pauwi na kami, no? Because older people are considered more knowledgeable because they are more experienced. All right? But I think there is a little problem there. I think we cannot solely explain the cause or the origin of wisdom, associating it with experience alone or age, no? Because when we say age, I cannot help but associate it with maturity. All right? Well, in our own experience, we can see people who are already old and yet very immature. Okay? That's a problem. And then we can see younger people who are mature enough. So I don't think age can be age can be a sole determinant to say that a person is wise, no? Wiser, or wise or not wise, for that matter. All right. I personally believe that aside from that aspect, I believe that wisdom is also a gift, no? It is a gift from the above. It is a gift from God. Well, not to mention, of course, that Jesus Christ is gifted of that wisdom. Uh, I am thinking of another situation in the Bible wherein we can, I think, more clearly understand what wisdom is. And I think that is the case of Solomon. Well, Solomon uh, is um, is known to be a wise king. He has wisdom. Okay, and I remember there was a time during the reign of King Solomon. No, there was a dilemma, a very crucial situation presented to him, and that was the case of the two mothers who are quarreling for an alive baby. No, um, perhaps both the women gave birth, but apparently the other child is born dead. No? And so the two women are quarreling for the alive baby. So that case was presented to King Solomon. Now the question is, where is wisdom there? Okay, what is wisdom actually? Later on, we will discover that wisdom has something to do with a decision making. Actually, a judgment, a good or wise judgment. All right? Um, and that crucial situation was a dilemmatic situation. No? That if you are an ordinary person, I think it will be very difficult for you to solve that problem. So where does wisdom lie there in that situation? Remember that the decision of Solomon very immediately, no, was to order his one of his men, no, to cut the baby into halves, no, into two, so that so that they can have a fair judgment. So both of them anyway can have, no, um, parts of the baby. All right, and that is a very difficult decision. If I were in his case, in his position, and if I were an ordinary person, I would not resort to that kind of decision. No? What if, no, the his soldier, no, his guard, has immediately cut the baby into two? No? So that is, that is horrible. But I think wisdom is found there because Solomon actually has a vision of the future scenario, and I think that is the application of wisdom there. And I suppose that is the reason why I said wisdom is a gift from God, because it is your ability to see, a future scenario or event. And King Solomon is so sure, that uh, upon ordering to cut the baby into halves, it won't happen. No? It won't happen. And so, at the end of the story, it turned out that the problem or the dilemma was actually solved by King Solomon. How? And that was when one of the women there immediately resisted, no? Saying that, King Solomon, please, let the baby live. No? And for me and for the woman, it is better that the baby be given to the other claimant, no? So that the baby could still live, could still be alive. And that's the solution to the problem, according to King Solomon. And I think it makes sense because in our own judgment, we can see in that situation that the real mother, which is the point of the problem, who is really the mother of the alive baby. Okay? So the real mother, of course, is the one who resisted the decision. And so, King Solomon gave the baby, the alive baby, to that woman, because that woman, for sure, is the real mother. All right. So I believe that that is how wisdom, no, is at play. No? That is how wisdom is at work in our life. All right. Okay, let me go on. Now, if that is the case, then to combine Philos and Sophia, then we can have philosophy. All right. So that is the the interesting subject that we have, philosophy, and that is interpreted etymologically as love of wisdom. All right. So you don't interchange love and wisdom. No, you don't say wisdom of love, because there will be a complete turnaround if you do that, because it will not be philosophy anymore if you do that. What then? So it will become the other the other uh, the other thing on the other side of the fence, no? Because wisdom of love is the principle actually of spirituality, religion, no? Especially Christian religion, because the language of Christian religion is love. So it must be about the wisdom of love. But in terms of philosophy, we have to be very strict. It should be love of wisdom. And there is, of course, a precise explanation why it happens that way. All right? So we move on, and we have here philosophos. All right? Philosophos. Now it becomes a person, and the translation is lover of wisdom. Very interesting. All right? Okay. But let us not remember at this point that the one who coined, the one who put together those two origins, Philos and Sophia, was none other than Pythagoras. Okay, of course, we shall have a specific discussion on that on the following lessons in this philosophy lecture series. Okay? Now, before we go to the next slide, I just would like to mention here, because this is really disturbing and alarming, especially in the Philippine context. We have the so-called corrupted terms of philosophy and wisdom in the Filipino context. And for everybody, it is important that you be educated about this. All right? So I am talking about philosopho. That is a Tagalog word, no, in the Philippines. And surprisingly, we have also the word wais, no, as a corruption of the term wise. So we shall discuss that on the next slide. Okay? Okay, so here, let me first address the case that I mentioned a while ago. So it is about Jesus Christ when he was young, and that was about losing and finding of Jesus. No? I told you that event a while ago. So that was the scenario. So here, it is like we are watching cinema. No? So this is the scenario actually. So that was Jesus Christ, and he was met by his parents. And his parents were so worried about what happened to him. But they were surprised upon discovering that Jesus Christ was so well, no? And he was found discussing, arguing with the elders in the synagogue. And that's how Christ is said to be having that fullness of wisdom. Okay, so we have here an interpretation of wisdom, no? So one is the quality of having experience. So you see, experience is included in the understanding of wisdom, knowledge, and good judgment. But I think the emphasis here is the quality of being wise. The quality of being wise, as uh, and I mean, in the context of decision making. So it has to be a good decision making or a wise decision making. That is why, if a person is said to be wise, then people are advised to listen, no, to the words of that wise man or wise woman. So characteristically, we can find wisdom having this qualifications: sagacity, no, sageness, intelligence, understanding, insight, perception. All right. Okay. Now, let us proceed to the situation about King Solomon. So, if we are to watch in a cinema like this, it will be more meaningful for us. So, the title of the movie is King Solomon, the Wise King. And look at the scenario. Can you see? So that is King Solomon, and that is his one of his men, no, his soldier maybe, and that person is about to cut the baby in two halves. No? So that decision of King Solomon was really, striking. It cannot be done by an ordinary person, considering the timing. No, timing is so important in this case. But as I told you, King Solomon possesses wisdom, a kind of wisdom that is coming from the above. And King Solomon knows exactly, that cutting the baby in two halves won't happen. And finally, he would be able to provide, the solution to the problem. Okay, so that is a wonderful scenario to see. Okay, so I remember another thing to further explain or to further demonstrate what wisdom is. I think we can consider one of the cardinal virtues, prudence. I hope you're familiar with the word or the term prudence, which includes judgment or decision making also. We can apply prudence in terms of speaking, because we humans are speaking too much, and if we are not thinking before we speak, if on the internet you have to think before you click, here in prudence you have to think before you speak, because you have to be sensitive about the future result of what you will be talking about. So as a human, and as a human who is applying critical thinking, so you have to be aware and you have to be sensitive of that possibility. No? So now, by applying prudence, you are not only to speak out, because you are analyzing the future effect of that action. Now, if you possess wisdom, because I believe that to be prudent is to possess sort of a kind of wisdom in yourself. So, if you are capable of seeing a future scenario, then you know exactly when to say this thing or that thing, and as a result, you will not be affecting, the rights and privacy maybe of other people. In short, you will not be hurting, other people. And that is wisdom. Okay? Let us proceed. Well, at this juncture, I think we have to sum up our gathered information about the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So, knowledge here is summed up as a gained through studying or accumulation of new information, and it pertains to a rich storage of information. So that is how we characterize knowledge, no? And if a person is said to be knowledgeable, then it is expected that that person is really has the storage of the information. But that is far different from the concept of wisdom, because wisdom has to do more with insight, understanding, and accepting of the fundamental nature of things in life. No? I think that summarizes all the aspects that we considered when we were discussing about wisdom a while ago. Now, to make our life happy, because I believe that philosophy is a boring subject. No? Yeah, this is boring, and everything is boring. The subject matter is boring, the students are boring, the professor is boring, everything is boring in philosophy. That is why a joke is needed. No? So let me give you sort of a trivia here. No? Well, this image is about wisdom, right? But you notice that when we talk about wisdom, usually an icon of an owl is used. And you may notice that in my presentations, I am also using that icon, the icon of the owl. So let's read some of a trivia about the owl. No? It is good. It is also a good food for our thought. So owls are considered wise because of their heightened senses and association with the night. Wow, that is very interesting. Well, these creatures, of course, are nocturnal creatures. No, they are so alive during the night. They are at work during the night. That is the time when they were so busy hunting, for their food. So I have a basic question here. Do you know what keeps the owls awake? All right? I hope that question makes sense because they are working during the night. Well, if your answer is coffee, that is great. Congratulations. So, this caricature of the owl having a good time drinking coffee is something that makes the boring moment somewhat entertaining. Okay? So let us proceed. I hope you're entertained by that trivia. Okay, let's go to the issues that I opened up to you. And this thing is something that is not not a happy thing. That this makes us sad, no? Knowing that in the Philippine context there is the use of the corrupted term of philosophy, and that is philosopher. Well, I guess you would not like to talk to the so-called philosopher in our context, in our society. It irritates you when you talk to them. All right? So every Filipino knows what I am talking about. Now, well, everybody knows that the character Piloso Potasio was used by Jose Rizal in his writings, no? Especially in his Noli. All right? So Rizal's description of Piloso Potasio was an intelligent and sagacious individual, of course, displaying a love for philosophy and learning. That's good. However, what makes us sad, uh, i- uh, i- in that Tagalog term, philosopho, was that it came to be used as an insult in the Filipino context. Because to say philosopher is someone who is, yes, witty. So you observe them that they have seemingly a superior knowledge. They can manipulate you actually in their own way of reasoning. No? They can fool you around. If you are not so careful, uh, you become a fool in front of them. Alright? So they are witty. Yet, these guys are sarcastic. And so, you may not wish to encounter these guys in some situations. Okay. So, that is why, let's focus here on this no? Figures. This is a sad part of our situation in our country. Maybe owing to the fact that we don't have established philosophy of our own. In fact, the philosophy that we are studying right now is a borrowed philosophy. It is not our own philosophy. And that perhaps can give you some explanations why in our society there are people like that, the so-called philosopher. Okay. I researched a Philosopho Facebook page, and here are the stuff that I got. Well, I appreciate the creativity of the guy who is the creator of this Facebook page. No? I indicated here to appreciate him. Well, as I said, I appreciate his creativity. And let me read some of the contents so for you to see what is really pilosopotasio. I mean the negative one, the corrupted one. What are the contents here? Don't give up, or don't give up on your dreams. Keep sleeping. You see? So it is entertaining. Ano? Ayoko lang talaga kapag naging zombie ako. Kapag naging zombie ako ay yung walang tigil sa paglalakad. Naturalmente, right? Walang gamot sa pagiging tanga. Kaya kung ako sa'yo, itigil mo na yan. Baka yan pa ang ikamatay mo. Tanga lang ang taong naghahanap sa sarili. Magulat ka kapag nakasalubong mo yan. It makes sense, no? It makes sense, no? Kasasahod mo pa lang pero wala ka na agad pera. Alright? Pag nakita nyo akong malungkot, please wag nyo akong kausapin. Batuhin nyo lang ako ng 1,000. Ano pa? Sadyang may mga taong deserve mahalikan ng buwaya sa leeg. Okay, so you see this kinds of thinking of the so-called philosopher. Well, they make sense for entertainment. Why not? And the thought they give us connects actually to the reality. Although some seem nothing but plain stupidity based on the normal standard. You get what I mean? So again, I like the enthusiasm of the creator of this. I like the energy. I like the level of confidence actually. They are not afraid. They are not ashamed to post thoughts like this. I like the confidence. Although, and that is my regret. And I say to myself that if only this so-called philosophy in our society, kasi nasasayangan ako sa mga ito, no? If only this philosophy in our society can be trained properly and formally, then they can be productive assets not only by our country but maybe by the world also. So sayang, because they are not trained the proper way. No? Unfortunately, because well, philosophy is not so common in our country. In fact, you, no, all of you there, find philosophy as somewhat strange to you. No? So like the philosopher, I guess that philosopher, the word, this terminologies, no, they came to our country during the time when no, when our when the common, no, the ordinary people are not so aware about this, you know, this genuine undertaking. No? So when they first learned and heard about that word, they got it, no, wrongly. So it was obscure. So they did not get it in the proper way. And I think that is the time when the philosophers in our country was born. I regret, because they could have been, you know, educated, no, so they could have, they could, so that they could have help our country for the better. All right. According to Charles Bukowski, I read, the problem with the world is that intelligent people are full of doubts. I hope you can agree with him. Because because the with the intelligent people, or let's say the wise people, are so much concerned, no, sensitive of any mistake that they can commit. No, they are not that confident to show off, to showcase what they know. They're very careful. All right. Okay, and let me continue. While the stupid ones are full of confidence. Wow, this is a very striking quotation from Charles Bukowski. Okay, now I added something just this morning. I added something. I got something from YouTube. So I got it from Christian Isgueres YouTube channel. Facts first. I got it because I love the caption here. This is very much connected to our subject, critical thinking. And you know, the title here, Trolls, Critical but No Thinking. Very interesting. I think I cannot help but to agree with this. I agree with Christian here, right? Because you know, the trolls in our social media are so confident. They are not afraid. And that is so alarming. That's very alarming. That our social media is now infestated, no, by the so-called fake news. And these trolls are always at play. No? And they are not ashamed. No? That they are so critical about things without using reason or thinking. I said this is connected to our discussion last time in the first lesson, because you know, to be critical is different from becoming logical. I told you that you can be critical without the use of logic. So critical is a broader terminology than logic. And logic serves as the tool so that your way of critical thinking can become more effective and based on the truth and the reality. All right? So, at this point, let me now address the other problem that I mentioned a while ago, the so-called wise. So, where do you encounter this phenomenon? Surprisingly, and for me, this is a very interesting discovery, which I discovered long time ago. Well, this is not something new. I don't know if if SERP is still in the market. I don't know at the moment, but during I mean many years ago, this has been so familiar already. And well, the way uh, you know the way the advertisement was conceptualized here in this advertisement, it is very clever, no? Because it says, by the way, the product is SERP, a kind of powder detergent. Kasing linis, you see that? Pero hindi kasing mahal. An advertisement has a subliminal seduction so that they can always entice the people to buy the product. So, that is there is a kind of conditioning when you do an advertisement. So you see here, and the way the caption is formulated is so good, no? Kasing linis pero hindi kasing mahal, and that is the branding of the SERP. That's great. But what makes me so sad is the use of the term wise, because I am not comfortable with that, because I believe that is a corruption of the term, of the genuine understanding of the term wisdom or being wise. In our context, in the Tagalog context, no? When you say wise, of course, you say maabilidad. Well, that one is acceptable, maabilidad. But there is a negative connotation of it. No? When you say maabilidad, it means to say that because you're more capable, you can get maybe what belongs to other people. No? Because you are more capable, you can get what maybe is for them for that moment. All right? So that is the negative thing about it. Then if you go on and on the interpretation of wise, then you discover that there are more negative interpretations. Like when you say, no, aside from abilidad, madiskarte, magulang. I think that is common in basketball play. Okay, if you are magulang, you're wise. No? I think the extreme translation of wise is tuso. And that is so negative. And that is my worry, that our country, our culture is entertaining a kind of terminology to espouse a negative attitude, a negative behavior, no? A negative thinking. While in fact that, or where in fact that word is coming from is very genuine origin, right? Wisdom, wise, which is being used in philosophy, and that what makes me so sad about it. All right. So until here for now, and thank you for listening. Good day.